Hey everyone, welcome to my channel, or welcome back. It's Synastry Sunday. Today I'm going to be talking about the Vertex Axis, sometimes called the electric axis, and what that means when we have that conjunct in our synastry. So here's where I give you my two disclaimers. First one is when I say soulmate, I mean those deeply impactful, deeply connected relationships that you never forget. Some people use the word twin flame, soulmate, karmic partner, life partner, their person, the one, whatever word you use. There are so many different ideas about what these things are, what these types of relationships are, and, you know, whatever you want to call it is fine. I'm just calling it soulmate because it seems like a nice general term. That was this giant ring banging on the table. My other disclaimer is that with synastry, let's see, in my last video, I described it as a recipe, but today I'm going to describe it as a garden. So if you think of your relationship as a garden, or your synastry as a whole is a garden, and each aspect is a flower, and you can't really single out one flower, describe it, and then have that be the descriptor for the entire relationship, right? You really need to take the whole thing into account. But notice that with both recipe ingredients and certain plants and flowers in your garden, some are, you notice some more than others. Some are bigger, some are more bold, some are more impactful. And these aspects that I'm talking about in this series are those really impactful ones. And this vertex axis conjunction that I'm talking about today is really impactful. This is a big one. This is the first thing I look at when I look at a synastry chart. What's going on with the vertex? So what even is the vertex? Well, it is the mathematical point in the sky where the ecliptic of the sun meets the prime meridian. And the prime meridian is the plane that intersects the earth into front and back sides. And wherever that is at the moment of your birth, that's your vertex. And it's usually going to be in the 5th, 6th, 7th, or 8th houses. Now, because it's an axis, and many people don't talk about this being an axis. If you have heard of the vertex before, you may not realize that it is actually an axis. The opposite point is called the AntiVertex. Now, it doesn't mean bad vertex or anything like that. It's just the opposite point, and that's what it's called. And that's going to be in the opposite sign in the opposite house of your vertex. Now, this axis is nicknamed the electric axis, and there's a reason for that. When this axis is triggered by a person in synastry, by a full moon, new moon, eclipse, some kind of major transit, it often indicates a destined event or a destined meeting in between people. Now, when I say destined, I mean it depends on what your beliefs are about destiny and fate. It at least feels that way. It's a compulsive, really intense encounter. So now that you know a little bit about what the vertex axis is, honestly, there's enough to be said about it that it really deserves a video dedicated just to it. So if you would like me to do that, give me a comment below, because there's a lot I could say about it. So let's look at a couple synastry charts that have this Vertex Axis conjunction. Now you have to take a shot every time I say axis. The first chart is going to have the vertex-vertex conjunction, and the other chart is going to have a vertex-vertex opposition, also called a vertex-anti-vertex conjunction, just to confuse you, but it's the same thing. You'll see what I mean. Okay, let's take a look at these charts. I have drawn up the Synastry chart the same way that I showed you in my video of how to get your free Synastry chart. And I'll put a card up here in case you need that link. Just for me, when I was learning, it seemed to really matter how the chart looked, and consistency seemed to be really helpful. And so I wanted to be sure that you could have a chart that looked the same as the chart I'm using. If I were to use my software, it would look totally different. And I want this to be as easy to understand as possible, because astrology can definitely feel overwhelming. Anyway, so here we have the blue person here in the blue, red person here on the outside. Okay, down here we have the degrees, and here is this gorgeous vertex conjunction. Now, how do we know it's conjunct? Well, if you go down here to the box, the very last thing here is vertex. And so the blue person's vertex is at 14 degrees of Cancer. This means 14 degrees, 12 minutes, and 24 seconds. But really, we only need this first number. The red person's vertex is at 13 degrees of Cancer. So this is a very close conjunction. Now, a conjunction means they are on top of each other. And how wide are the parameters for a conjunction? Well, obviously we'd like it to be as close as possible. If it is within 2 degrees, it's going to be really, really, really powerful conjunction. If it's within 6 degrees or even 8 degrees, you're still going to feel it. But ideally, you want it to be within 6 degrees. That's just what I prefer. Different astrologers do different things. That's just my way. Okay, so here you can see this is where the anti-vertex is, but it's not marked. But I want you to know that it's there, okay? So for the blue person, their anti-vertex is at 14 degrees of Capricorn. Capricorn is the opposite sign of Cancer, okay? The blue person, their anti-vertex is 13 degrees of Capricorn. So they're going to be right here. So this axis is exactly conjunct within 1 degree. Okay, pretty cool. Now let's take a look at this chart for a second. They have their ascendant-descendant axis conjunct as well. And that's probably something I'll talk about in the future. They have this sweet Pluto-Sun conjunction, which is something I'll talk about soon. There's a lot going on in this chart. Very intense. A lot of intensity here. This alone, whew, goodness. Okay, let me get the other chart. Okay, next chart. Here we go. So here we have this vertex opposition. Okay. Now down here, here's the blue person's vertex, 14. This is the same chart. But this person is the same person. And actually, this Synastry chart is the same chart that I used in my video for North Node conjunct Sun, which I'll put a card right here in case you missed that, because there's that beautiful conjunction. And looky here, this lucky couple has an exact, they're both at 14 degrees. They are within 3 minutes of each other with this vertex. So the blue person's vertex is exactly conjunct the red person's anti-vertex and vice versa. Now, okay, so let's say that there were some researchers and they were speaking to different astrologers who specialized in synastry, and they wanted to know one synastry aspect that could be an indicator for actual twin flames, if you even believe that, and again, different people have different ideas of what that is. But if I had to pick one synastry aspect that could be an indicator of that type of connection, it would be this. Not the vertex conjunction, but the vertex anti-vertex conjunction, what we're looking at right here in this chart. So what does this feel like? Well, it feels destined. It feels like the universe has knocked itself out to get these two people together. And this is the same as the vertex conjunction, what I'm describing here. There is incredible telepathy. There's, you can feel what the other person is feeling when you're not together. These people will not only finish each other's sentences, but say the same thing at the same time. They'll jinx each other all the time, owing each other a lot of cokes. It feels fated. Where with the Sun North Node conjunction, the primary feeling there is that it feels right. It feels like the right thing to do to be in this relationship. With this Vertex Axis conjunction, it feels destined. Now, destined does not mean lasting. And that's something that I have to mention here. Each synastry aspect has sort of a different level of potentiality for longevity, and the vertex has none. It is only about impact. Doesn't mean that people who have this conjunction can't last forever, can't last a lifetime. But it's not the vertex conjunction or the vertex axis conjunction, take your shot. It's not that that's going to keep them together. They were definitely supposed to meet each other, if you believe in that. Personally, when it comes to the concepts of destiny and fate, I believe that we are destined to come to certain crossroads, and then it's free will which path we take, if we open the door. But I do believe that the universe will bring us to certain doors, or to certain opportunities, or to certain people or types of people, because of the types of soul lessons that we need, or the karma we need to sort out, or whatever. So these relationships are heavy, heavy, heavy on that type of thing. Now, I'm going to close this chart. An interesting aspect to these vertex axis conjunction relationships is that oftentimes they know each other before they fall in love, or before they even find each other attractive. Or they'll be like separated by 1 degree for years and years and years and years and years. And there's usually a trigger. In both of those charts that I just showed you, those people, there was a vertex trigger. It's like that lightning strike. It's almost as if the connection has to be activated by that vertex point, by something, and it's not each other. It's not the two people that activate each other's vertex. It's other things, these full moons, these new moons, other things that I can. If you're interested in these 3 triggers that I've discovered, give me a comment below and maybe I'll do a video if there's enough interest in that. It's pretty cool. But the vertex needs to be triggered. That's one of the ingredients of this recipe. It's really cool. The lightning has to strike for the activation of this electric axis conjunction relationship. Now, or I said before, there's no guarantee that these relationships will last. Sometimes intensity like that, you know, of course, depending on the rest of the chart, but too much intensity cannot endure in most cases. I'll put my money on the fact that if any couple that has this vertex conjunction, if they break up, they can't be friends. Even if they are the type of people that usually stay friends with their exes, no bueno. Not going to happen. It's too much. It's pretty fascinating, isn't it? Well, thank you so much for watching. I really, there are a lot of things that you could be doing with your time, and I'm really grateful to have this platform and to have you here to listen to me ramble about my work and these things that I'm extremely passionate about. So thank you so much for liking, subscribing, sharing. If you have any questions, any trouble with the charts, let me know. I will reply, and I'll see you next time. Bye.